There is a silence inside you that no one else can hear, a place beneath thought, beneath words, where something ancient waits. You can feel it when the room grows quiet, when the noise of the day finally fades, and the masks you wear begin to loosen their grip. That's when it stirs, a soft hum behind your heartbeat, a breath caught between what you show the world and what you really are. You've heard it before, in the ache of loneliness, in the strange pull of dreams, in the way your chest tightens when you lie to yourself. It's faint, but constant. A whisper from the depths saying, "There's something you've forgotten." They told you to be good, to behave, to smile politely and stay within the lines. And you did. You became likable, pleasant, safe. You learned to dim the parts of yourself that made others uncomfortable. Your anger, your desire, your hunger for more. They said it was ugly, so you hid it, and the world clapped for you, because the world loves a tidy soul, a soul that never disrupts the peace. But deep down, you could feel it, something inside you, untamed and unsurrendered, pressing its palms against the walls of your composure. Every forced smile, every apology for existing, every time you said, "It's fine," when it wasn't. A small part of you sank deeper into the dark. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And isn't that what we do? We build empires of distraction, careers, relationships, reputations, so we never have to feel the truth that hums beneath the surface. We tell ourselves stories. "I'm just tired. I'm over it. I'm not that kind of person." But the whisper doesn't buy your excuses. It waits, patient, relentless. It speaks through the tension in your jaw, through the sleepless nights, through the moments when you suddenly don't recognize your own reflection. It speaks in the quiet voice that asks, "Is this all there is? Why do I feel hollow even when I'm doing everything right?" The whisper is not trying to hurt you. It's trying to wake you, because there is something in you, older than fear, truer than politeness, that wants to live. And every time you bury it, it reaches for you in dreams. It surfaces in art, in rage, in longing, in the eyes of the people who challenge you the most. The shadow is a tight passage, a narrow door, Jung wrote, whose painful constriction no one is spared who goes down to the deep well. You are standing at that door now. You have been standing there for years. The whisper is the sound of your soul knocking from the inside. It says, "Do not be afraid of what you feel. Do not be afraid of what you've hidden. I am the part of you that remembers. I am everything you abandoned to be loved." And if you have the courage to listen, really listen, the whisper becomes a voice. Not a scream, not a threat, just truth, ancient and unwavering. You cannot become whole by amputating your darkness. You see, the darkness was never punishment. It was the birthplace of your strength, the forge of your compassion, the raw material of your becoming. All those years you tried to bury it, you weren't escaping it, you were circling it like a planet caught in its own orbit. And maybe that's what growing up really means, not learning how to shine brighter, but learning how to see in the dark. Because the whisper will follow you until you stop running, until you sit with it and say, "I'm listening." And in that moment, everything changes. You stop fearing the dark and start hearing it for what it is. Not a threat, but a promise that there is more to you than the self you show the world. More depth, more rage, more love, more everything. The whisper is your invitation, the threshold between who you pretend to be and who you actually are. And once you cross it, nothing, not your past, not your masks, not your fear, can ever rule you again. Because now you know the truth. The darkness isn't against you. It's a part of you that's been waiting its whole life to be seen. There is a place within you that you've tried to seal shut. You know it by the way your chest tightens when someone touches a nerve. You know it by the way you say, "I'm fine," when what you really mean is, "I'm breaking." It's the part of you that flinches when you look too long in the mirror. The place that stores everything you've exerted, the anger you never voiced, the envy you never admitted, the desire you never let breathe. It waits in the dark, patient, silent, watching. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the unseen twin of your light, the echo of everything you've repressed in the name of being good. And oh, how early we learn to repress. We learn that being loved means being easy. We learn that safety means silence. We learn that belonging means obedience. So we build masks and bury the rest. We lock away our fury, our lust, our grief, our wildness, and call it maturity. We bury our tears beneath smiles, our truth beneath politeness, our authenticity beneath acceptance. But what you bury does not die. It roots itself in your bones. It grows in the dark, feeding on every lie you tell yourself to stay safe. And one day it starts to whisper back. At first it sounds like restlessness, like exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure, like the ache of a life that looks right but feels wrong. Then it grows louder, a voice in your chest saying, "This isn't me. This isn't who I am." The shadow begins to speak, not in words, but in reactions, in dreams, in the patterns that keep repeating no matter how hard you try to change them. It speaks in the way you lash out when you promised yourself you wouldn't. It speaks in the people you attract, those who mirror the parts of you you still refuse to face. It speaks in the quiet sadness that lingers even when everything looks perfect. The shadow doesn't need permission. It will be heard. Knowing your own darkness, Jung said, is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. Because until you meet your shadow, you will keep seeing it everywhere else. You will project your denied emotions onto the faces around you. You will hate in others what you have not yet forgiven in yourself. You will call someone selfish, not realizing you've disowned your own needs. You will call someone arrogant, not realizing you've buried your confidence. You will call someone cold, not realizing you've numbed your own heart to survive. And every judgment becomes a mirror, every irritation, an invitation, every trigger, a door. The shadow waits behind that door, not to harm you, but to hand you back what you lost. Because within that darkness is your power, your passion, your boundaries, your voice. Without the shadow, you are only half alive. You shine. Yes, but without roots, without weight, without depth. You become the eternal pleaser, the saint who never rests, the healer who bleeds for everyone else. But when you turn inward, when you finally stop running, you begin to see the shadow for what it truly is, a map back to wholeness. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, Jung wrote, but by making the darkness conscious. So you start small. You sit with the anger. You sit with the jealousy. You let them speak. You ask, "What do you need? What are you trying to show me?" And they answer, not with malice, but with truth. Your anger says, I needed boundaries. Your envy says, I wanted that life. Your fear says, I've been trying to protect you. And you realize they were never demons. They were exiles. Parts of you that were cast out because they made someone else uncomfortable. You were never meant to kill them. You were meant to integrate them. Because when you do, the shadow softens. The darkness becomes fertile. The chaos becomes creative. You begin to live from a deeper pulse, something raw, honest, and beautifully human. You no longer fear your own complexity. You no longer apologize for your depth. You no longer bow to the illusion of perfection. You understand now that the shadow is not your flaw. It is your fullness. It is the night sky that makes the stars visible. It is the soil from which your light grows roots. It is the fire that, when faced with awareness, becomes warmth instead of destruction. The shadow whispers to you, in that place where words dissolve, I am not the enemy. I am your unlived life. I am your courage, disguised as chaos. I am your truth, waiting to be remembered. And once you finally listen, you stop trying to erase your darkness. You start learning from it, loving through it, living with it. Because this tender, trembling, terrifying meeting with yourself is where wholeness begins. And the moment you accept your shadow, something miraculous happens. You stop hiding from yourself, and the world stops feeling like an enemy. The war inside you ends, not in victory, but in reunion. And for the first time you realize, the voice in the dark was never a threat. It was a homecoming. We are born naked, and then we learn to dress in masks. It starts small. A smile to make them proud, a lie to stay out of trouble, a little piece of yourself traded for safety, for belonging, for love. And soon the mask becomes the face. We call it personality. We call it politeness. We call it just how I am. But underneath that polished surface is a heartbeat that does not match the rhythm of your words. Carl Jung called that outer face the persona, a shield between the soul and the world, necessary, protective. Until you forget it's only a costume. You learn which parts of you earn applause and which draw silence. You become the agreeable one, the strong one, the forgiving one. You play your part so well that even your reflection believes it. But every act has an understudy. Behind the spotlight, your shadow waits, arms crossed, watching you perform. It watches when you say yes, while meaning no. It watches when you laugh at jokes that wound you. It watches when you shrink yourself to keep someone else comfortable. And though the audience cheers, you leave the stage hollow, because each applause feels like it belongs to the mask, not to you. So you try harder. You decorate the mask. You build an identity out of approval. You become indispensable, pleasant, adored, and secretly exhausted. The mask is heavy. It muffles your breath. And sometimes, late at night, you can hear a small, defiant voice whispering, "This is not who I am." You drown it out with distractions, work, noise, endless scrolling. You call the numbness peace. You call the exhaustion purpose. But truth is patient. It doesn't shout. It waits. It waits in the tension in your shoulders, in the tear you swallow during small talk, in the way your eyes glaze when someone asks how you are. One day the mask begins to crack. A betrayal splits it. A heartbreak burns through it. A grief you can't outrun finally finds you. And in that rupture, you glimpse your real face. Raw, trembling, alive. The privilege of a lifetime, Jung said, is to become who you truly are. But to become who you truly are, you must first unlearn who you pretended to be. When the mask falls, you feel naked again, and it terrifies you, because the world taught you that nakedness invites harm. But it also frees you, because you can finally breathe. You begin to see how everyone is wearing one, how every smile hides a bruise, every critic hides fear, every saint hides sin. The world is not made of monsters and heroes, it is made of mirrors. You notice that the people who trigger you most carry the pieces you've disowned. The arrogant one mirrors your buried confidence. The selfish one mirrors your denied desires. The cold one mirrors your unspoken boundaries. Everything that irritates us about others, Jung wrote, can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And so you begin to look differently. You stop asking, "Why are they like that?" and start asking, "What in me is being shown?" Slowly, compassion replaces judgment. Honesty replaces image. And the mask, instead of armor, becomes choice. A tool you can lift or lay down at will. You begin to show your face to the world, unfiltered, unguarded. You speak even when your voice shakes. You let your no be sacred, and your yes be true. And though not everyone will love you for it, the right ones will. Because authenticity is magnetic. It calls to the real in others. And you realize, the purpose of the mask was never to hide you forever. It was only to protect you until you were ready to stand bare in your own light. Now the mirrors no longer scare you. They teach you. They show you where the shadow still hides and where the light has yet to reach. You understand that the people you meet are not interruptions to your journey. They are your journey. Each reflection, each conflict, each love is a door back to yourself. And when you walk through those doors, you find that every mask, every mirror, every shadow was never keeping you from your truth. They were guiding you toward it. Awakening doesn't arrive like light. It arrives like fire. It doesn't soothe you. It burns away everything false. At first it feels like destruction, but what's dying is only illusion. The masks fall, the walls tremble. The truth begins to glow beneath the rubble. This is the fire of awareness, the inner alchemy Jung spoke of, a reckoning that turns shadow into gold, pain into wisdom, fear into freedom. There is no coming to consciousness, Jung wrote, without pain. And he was right, because awareness hurts before it heals. It asks you to see the ways you've betrayed yourself in the name of being loved. It asks you to face the ways you've become the jailer of your own soul. It asks you to remember every time you said yes when your spirit screamed no. Awareness burns like truth always does, but within that fire, something sacred awakens, the realization that every lie you told yourself was a form of protection. You weren't weak, you were surviving. You weren't fake, you were adapting. And now, you're allowed to do more than survive. You begin to reclaim your lost fragments. The anger that once terrified you becomes your boundary. The jealousy you buried becomes your compass. The grief you avoided becomes your depth. The shadow does not vanish, it transforms. The same fire that once consumed you now warms you from within. You start to see it everywhere, this strange miracle of turning inward. You notice how awareness turns blame into curiosity, how forgiveness stops being performance and becomes release. You stop seeking approval like oxygen. You start telling the truth, even when your voice shakes. You start walking away from people and places that ask you to shrink. And little by little, you start remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Until you make the unconscious conscious, Jung said, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You begin to see how much of your fate was just unhealed memory, how many of your choices were echoes of old wounds. You realize the people who hurt you were only playing out their own unconscious pain, just as you once did. And something shifts. Not forgiveness in the shallow sense, but a deep, soul-level recognition. They were unconscious. So were you. Now you choose to wake up. Awareness humbles you. It softens your judgments. It teaches you that the line between sinner and saint runs straight through every human heart. And in that humility, you stop trying to purify yourself. You start to integrate yourself. You begin to dance with your contradictions. You let the part that wants control sit beside the part that longs to surrender. You let the part that fears abandonment sit beside the one that pushes love away. You no longer banish your chaos. You learn to sit inside it until it reveals its purpose. Awareness becomes devotion, a quiet, sacred practice of staying awake to what is true right now. And truth, when seen fully, is always liberating. You realize that the shadow never wanted to destroy you. It wanted to make you whole. It wanted you to see that your darkness was not the opposite of light. It was its cradle. The fire of awareness burns away the false, but leaves the essence untouched. What remains is simple, unadorned, radiant. You look into the mirror again, and this time you don't see an enemy. You see someone becoming, someone beautiful in their becoming. The gold, Jung said, is in the dark. And you finally understand what he meant. The treasure was never hidden from you. It was hidden within you, under fear, under shame, under pretense. Now the fire clears the way. You can see it, that quiet, indestructible light that was there all along. You have not become perfect. You have become present. You no longer seek to escape your humanity. You've learned to inhabit it, and in that sacred, burning honesty, you realize awareness is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning of freedom. When the fire cools and the ashes settle, something quiet remains. Not peace exactly, something deeper, something earned. You begin to realize that healing was never about becoming pure. It was about becoming real. You stop chasing light as if it were separate from the dark. You stop trying to fix yourself as if you were ever truly broken. You begin to see that the shadow was never your enemy. It was your inheritance, the unspoken half of your soul that only wanted to be known. Wholeness is not about perfection. It's about inclusion. The child and the warrior, the saint and the sinner, the voice that forgives and the one that still aches to be heard. You are all of it, and none of it needs to be denied. The most terrifying thing, Jung wrote, is to accept oneself completely. Because when you finally do, the world changes color. You stop living in opposition to yourself. You stop projecting your pain onto others. You stop running from what you feel. And in that stillness, you find something ancient, a love that does not depend on worthiness, a light that does not need to conquer the dark. This is what it means to be whole, to stand in the center of your contradictions and call it home. The shadow is no longer a stranger. It is the ground beneath your light. The darkness no longer frightens you. It hums like an old friend, whispering, welcome back. You understand now. There was never a war inside you, only a reunion waiting to happen. Because the soul does not want perfection. It wants union. And when you finally stop fighting yourself, you become something vast, something human and divine all at once. I am not what happened to me, Jung said. I am what I choose to become. So choose to become whole. Choose to see with both eyes, the one that gazes into the light and the one that watches the dark. And when the world asks who you are, you will no longer answer with a mask, or a wound, or a name. You will simply smile, and the shadow will smile with you. Because now you are complete. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be whole.